Hello, my name is Russ Tribble, and this is my multimedia presentation for School Personnel Administration on Educator Sexual Misconduct. Good day, Dr. Johnson. Well, the problem. The last decade has seen a very regrettable rise in inappropriate student-teacher relationships and sexual harassment. Between January and March of 2013 alone, Texas suffered no less than 26 investigations related to improper conduct between students and teachers. Now, it's difficult to quantify the exact frequency of such occurrences as the crime is notoriously underreported. Of course, social media plays a role in the publicizing of such cases and indeed bringing them to light. Instant news coverage, supported by cable and online TV programming, online news sites, bloggers, and so on, has allowed national and international issues to more quickly become issues for those responsible for managing communication in school systems. Now, in this presentation, my attempt is to ascertain the frequency of these crimes and try to offer some solutions, both proactive and reactive. So what is this problem? In her paper, School Principals' Knowledge and Understanding of Educators' Sexual Misconduct Against Students, Sylvia Carnes offers a very extensive definition of all possible offenses that could be grouped under sexual harassment. Anything under Title IX, any conduct that would amount to sexual abuse of a minor, any relationship by an educator with a student, and any activity directed towards establishing a relationship, such as sending letters, sexual dialogue in person, the internet, writing, or by phone, making suggestive comments. All of these qualify. Now, that fourth notation is crucial. Social media sites are one of the front lines where teachers find themselves under fire for inappropriate activity. But these inherently intimate types of communication raise the serious risk that an initially innocuous exchange, something about homework, when a sporting event is happening, something of the similar, will segue, particularly later at night, into more personal and inappropriate topics. One would think that common sense would dictate the actions of educators in interacting with pupils. But given recent headlines, one would be mistaken. Too often, educators confuse being friendly with students and being friends with students. And for many teachers, new and veteran, the line between superior and underling become blurred, and professionalism takes a backseat to familiarity. Now, this issue is much more prevalent than many educators suspect. In the minds of many, it's an aberration, understandable only in terms of newspaper headlines and talk show exposés. But it's singular to note that it's likely that sexual misconduct among educators has been prevalent for at least the last 60 years, with the highest figures estimating that 1 in 20 educators have engaged in sexual misconduct against students that range anywhere from obscene remarks to sexual intercourse itself. Now, I had no idea the scope of this problem until a college classmate of mine was arrested for statutory rape in his capacity as a middle school band director, and that happened 2 years after he got the job. The year after, multiple employees in my district were arrested for the very same crime. Now, this issue isn't nebulous, and it's very widespread and prevalent. Now, it's likely that the seeming recent upsurge in activity is due largely to the advent of social media and the instantaneous reporting of scandal. Now, too often, educator sexual misconduct and harassment is associated with men. On average, men receive longer prison sentences for such offenses. A 2013 New Jersey study revealed that male offenders receive, on average, 2.4 years in prison, while female offenders receive an average of 1.6. It should be noted that the incidence of female offenders, though, is also on the rise. In 2004, the U.S. Department of Education reported that 40% of perpetrators of unwanted sexual attention and harassment towards children were women. That number has risen steadily over the past 9 years. Now, it's been 15 years since that very well-publicized case of Mary Kay Letourneau, and this is no longer an issue that can be considered exclusive to one gender. So that brings us to the most difficult question. Why? Now, it might feel easy to dismiss these cases as perversion, errors in the system such as they are, but the rampancy and the overarching nature of these crimes reflects that deep societal, social, and psychological factors are at work. Many of them, them being these teachers or administrators, have arrested emotional development, and they giggle and carry on very much as teenagers do. One must be cautious, however, to avoid trying to create a perfect profile of an offender. There are those who are statistically more likely to offend, but this is by no means a litmus test. Teachers whose job description includes time with individual students, such as teachers' aides, drama coaches, coaches of athletic teams, music, band directors, they're more likely to harass or abuse. Now, this would be logical, as these teachers are more often placed in situations where they find themselves alone with students for longer periods of time. But again, this is not a true indicator. Students are victimized by everyone, from administrators to custodians. Anyone can be a sexual harasser. Now, the best possible proactive solution is to raise awareness. Of course, it's easy to see why school districts would be loath to enact any sort of awareness campaign which would project a negative light on their employees. Any parent would see this message as unequivocal. Your child is in danger in our schools. So as such, more and more school districts are holding staff developments solely on the topic of educator-student sexual harassment. There are plenty of other proactive steps to be considered, though. As noted earlier, social media sites and text often get educators in situations where events can go awry. Stop teachers texting with kids, and stop teachers from interacting with kids on Facebook, Instagram, any social media site, because that leads to serious problems. Now, this step is crucial when it comes to student-educator relationships. Familiarity breeds unwanted behavior. Many offenders can also buck the system because school districts want to avoid bad publicity. Screening in the employment process is an important step. Many accused abusers are allowed to avoid criminal charges if they agree to resign quietly. Of course, covering up the problem does nothing to resolve it, and only leaves another unsuspecting school district picking up the pieces when a repeat offender is allowed a second opportunity. Honesty and prosecution would be a difficult matter for any school district, but the likelihood of seeing the offender removed from the system improves dramatically. Reactive responses to this issue are more difficult. Educators should be instructed to avoid speaking to the media and discourage the propagation of rumor. The principal who increases his or her scrutiny and seriously pays attention to rumors, gossip, or indirect complaints will note that child molesters and sexual harassers commonly give warning signs. We have instincts for a reason. If we suspect something is amiss, there is likely a good reason behind it. This is a complicated issue, and it's one that I feel will worsen before it improves. As social media continues to permeate our existence and our teachers graduate with more and more of an online presence, it is crucial that future administrators caution their new crops of educators on the folly of familiarity with their students. All right. That is my presentation, such as it is. This is my list of references. If you would like them in a more detailed copy, I can provide that. So, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.